On this episode of Around the Galaxy, we're joined by Alex and Mollie Damon of Star Wars Explained. Join us as we talk about Star Wars YouTube celebrity, the future of Star Wars, and where to draw the line on social media. Thank you so much for joining me. How you doing?
Good.
Excellent. Good.
Well, as good as you can be in 2020.
Yeah. I mean, it's the longest year ever. It's a 30-year year. I was saying that at dinner. My kids didn't quite get the joke, but yeah, it's been wild. And you guys are down in Georgia, which is the hotbed of activity, it seems. But yeah, we'll steer clear of politics a little bit here. Probably is probably a better way to go. So for those that may or may not know you, first of all, I'd be surprised, but you guys are sort of like, you're like the first couple of Star Wars, Mollie and Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained. So maybe tell us a little bit, for those that don't know, what is Star Wars Explained?
So it's our YouTube channel, and that's where we cover any and every new piece of Star Wars content. So obviously The Mandalorian's going on right now, so we're covering that. The Tales from the Galaxy's Edge VR experience came out last week. I covered that. So any new book or comic or TV show or obviously movie that comes out, we try to cover it and just keep up with it all.
Yep, absolutely. And that's, I think I said to you last time, you guys are really the source for me for things that I can't quite get to, which is great. Anything Star Wars, you guys covered. So what did you think of the VR experience? Have you gone all the way through it? I started playing it myself. What did you think of it?
I thought it was just okay. I'm not super into like all the VR stuff. I mean, I've played all the Star Wars VR games. So this, Vader Immortal, the Star Wars Squadrons I got into, but I don't know, compared to something like Half-Life Alyx, which is kind of the only other real VR game I've spent a lot of time in, that game really blew me away. And compared to that, I was like, this is just fine, but it's probably pretty dang good when you compare it to like everything VR has to offer. I'm not that well versed in all VR gaming.
Yeah. Now, Mollie, I know that you're an Animal Crossing player. Do you get into these as well, or?
Not really. I think I gave Vader Immortal a try just to see what it was like.
Yeah.
But for the most part, VR, the headset isn't that comfortable. And I don't know, I get kind of motion sick with most VR, especially Squadrons. Oh man.
I'm tempted to. I used to have the PS4 VR, and I traded it in for Oculus Quest, and then this came out, Squadrons came out. But I'm kind of glad, because I don't know, I can't imagine a barrel roll like in VR. It's got to be a little rough.
It's intense.
Yeah, that's great. So, Mollie, have you always been a part of the Star Wars Explained channel? I don't recall if you were there at the beginning, because I've been a fan for, I guess, probably close to when you started, but I can't recall.
Yeah, I was there when it started. I didn't really become part of it until later on, when I noticed the channel was doing fairly well and was starting to grow, and I realized that we needed to kind of expand the social media aspect of the channel. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff, I kind of took it upon myself to create little nooks in all the social media platforms for the channel, and I've been kind of doing that ever since.
You find it's I mean, it's obviously, it's grown exponentially. It's been really a whole lot of fun. Do you guys, this is both your full-time jobs now?
Yep.
Yes.
Not to dig, and if you wouldn't mind, send me your tax records. And no, it's exciting, because I think a lot of people who are in the, first of all, I think the number of podcasts and YouTube channels and things like that has grown as rapidly as your channel. How do you make sure you stay on top of things? I mean, I guess since it is your full-time job, is it engagement? And the reason I ask is I have a method to this madness. The reason I ask is because, when social media is such an important part of promotion and moving your channel forward, you guys are also very, you have some very strong beliefs that I happen to be in the same category with you on many, many, many things. Do you find that to build your channel, to engage in social media, how do you sort of straddle that line? Does it become a challenge when you see some of the, I mean, we've talked about it before, I'll just call it the challenges of social media in the Star Wars space right now.
Yeah. It's definitely something that you kind of have to, I mean, you don't have to, but I guess we choose to stay out of anything that's too terribly controversial.
Mhm.
And at least on these Star Wars Explained accounts, keep things pretty much centered around Star Wars. We've kind of skirted that line more and more as time goes on, just to kind of see, get a feel for how people respond to different things. And it's been okay.
Yeah, it's tough because I know that some people like that they're following us for Star Wars stuff, and I understand that. And like sometimes, you just want a break. Like I want a break sometimes when I get on Twitter, and I just would like to scroll through happy things. And so I know that some people are just following us for one reason and one reason only, but we also have talked many times about like, okay, this is an important issue, and this is also where we have a platform where people are going to see it. And we just have that talk, and we're like, I think it's important that people know where we stand on something like whatever. There's been plenty of that this past year. So we just discuss whether or not we think that, people really should know that this is where we stand morally on something more than anything. And that's when we will put something out.
It's interesting because it seems like you're right. And it's one of those things that I struggle with as well is this does it make sense to get involved there, or is it irresponsible in some cases not to? Right. I mean,
right,
so much going on. And I think that's where you end up, you kind of feel it. You feel like, okay, this is one where my position needs to be, people need to know where I stand on it.
I think that's what you just said is correct, is like you feel it. And it's to quote Qui-Gon, trust your instincts. Like when you feel like, I think I should say something about this, then that you probably should. And sometimes I felt myself like, I don't really want to kick the hornet's nest and say something. And then I'm like, well, now I'm just acting out of fear. So that also probably means that I should say something.
That's true. I totally agree. It's one of those things too, where I don't know. It's probably just me. There's days I wake up and I'm like, I'm going to engage with that, and I know I shouldn't, and I just got to pull back because, to your point, especially a show with a channel with as big a following as yours, I discovered you way before I decided that I wanted to have a podcast or wanted to get back into this side of my Star Wars fandom. So I was just an average, the average kind of follower. I had, I followed you guys, I followed, my favorite sports teams. So it was a mix, and it's a strange line to have to toe. Mollie, I gotta ask, were you always a Star Wars fan, or did this guy kind of talk you into getting into it? What's your I got his story a year ago, but what is your story? How did you get to Star Wars, and how did you decide, other than to just the channel was there? What gets you excited? How did you get involved?
I would say I was always a very casual fan. I remember seeing the prequels in theaters, and the friends that I hung out with in middle school. I remember there was like a specific group of guys that lived in my neighborhood, and they were all big nerds, and I was also a big nerd. So we talked about Star Wars together, but it wasn't something. It definitely wasn't something that came up in like everyday conversations at all until we decided to start the channel, which I was, really excited about. And I didn't really, other than the social media stuff, I didn't really take part in any of the videos until I started participating in the weekly Q&As, and that kind of got me more and more and more into just getting into the nitty gritty of Star Wars. And then I started, watching the shows and reading some of the books, and yeah, it's been something. And then the sequel trilogy came out. It's been something that's kind of grown in me more so as an adult, I would say.
And do you find that there's a certain particular type of Star Wars you enjoy more, of the books, the films, the television shows?
I'd say more recently the TV shows have really been blowing it out of the park. Mandalorian is definitely one of my favorite Star Wars things to exist right now.
A year ago when we spoke, it was like an alternate universe. I mean, it was before Mandalorian. It was before the Rise of Skywalker. It was before Clone Wars season 7. And never mind the fact that the world is completely different, and you can't say never mind that, but the whole fact that we've gone through everything we have, the Star Wars universe has dramatically changed. Alex, what's your thoughts on the current state of Star Wars?
I'm really, really happy right now. I mean, the past year has been weird. Like, it should be even more different. We should be in the middle of the High Republic right now. And they delayed that, I think, just because of the pandemic and everything. And maybe to even like pace out their content a little more, because I don't know how heavy next year is going to be. So yeah, I'm a little bummed that we just haven't had as much in the book department, the book and comic department. I was just so hyped for High Republic, but man, the second season of The Mandalorian has just made me so happy, the way that they've been handling it all. Yeah, it's a good way to say it. Like last year at this time, or it was like right about this time, we were just getting into The Mandalorian, and it does feel like a different world.
And what about you, Molly? What do you think of the current state of things for the Star Wars universe? And as a fan now, it's such a great time to be a fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very exciting time for Star Wars. It's a hopeful time. There's just, I mean, the future of Star Wars in general is kind of very much up in the air. But that's also like, I choose to take that as something that's hopeful. I'm not dreading like, oh, what are they gonna mess up next time in Star Wars? I'm cautiously optimistic for the future and the future storytelling. The High Republic is giving me big hopes for something just brand new, different, something we'd never ever seen before. So I'm excited.
As far as the current state, how I know as a fan, it's difficult to, and especially a fan like you guys, because it's your job to kind of stay on top of things. How do you respond to spoiler culture and trying to do you avoid them, and or do you feel like the spoilers that we all kind of knew, like we all had a really good feeling that Bo-Katan was going to show up? We're pretty sure Ahsoka is coming shortly. Maybe even by the time this episode airs, she will have made an appearance. Does that impact your enjoyment of this new wave of Star Wars that's coming out?
I think I wish that I didn't know Ahsoka or Bo-Katan were going to be in it, and I still kind of tried to act that way. But even knowing that, like, Bo-Katan, or being like almost sure Bo-Katan was going to be in it, the second she showed up, I was like jumping out of my seat. Yeah. I mean, it still thrilled me. So I don't think it really takes away too much from my enjoyment for knowing that a character is going to show up is okay. If I knew like how and when and plot details, that would annoy me. I try to stay away from all of that stuff, but some of it's just unavoidable.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
about you?
I pretty much feel the same. I think if we weren't doing this channel, we definitely wouldn't be doing like trailer breakdowns and things like that. So if we didn't have the channel, we might not see or look into as much of the TV spots and the trailers and try to really dig specific things out of them like we do now. But that doesn't really take away any of the enjoyment for me. We do try to kind of stay away from scoops,
Okay.
or we know people that are in kind of the scoop business, and
Yeah.
and they'll tell us things, and we'll be like, okay, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Until we see or hear from official Star Wars sources, we try to kind of keep that stuff aside.
Yeah, I think in my head, sort of like from a headcanon perspective, a lot of that stuff I like to just kind of I start telling myself that that's a plant or that may or may not happen. But to your point, Alex, like when Bo-Katan showed up, first of all, I didn't know when she was going to show up, and I think I agree with you. If they said, well, in episode 3 she's going to show up and she's going to, that would annoy me. But to just have that excitement of seeing that helmet arrive on the scene was fantastic.
I do think it's interesting that I was just going to say the way that they have teased Ahsoka, and it's like the day that we're recording this, I mean, I feel like we know pretty solidly that she's about to show up.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't bug me. If they're rolling it out that way in the show, then I figure they have like a specific reason for teasing it like that in a plan. So to a degree, I'm like, even though I know for not sure, but I'm pretty certain that the next chapter is like going to be Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I'm not annoyed by that.
Yeah. All the puzzle pieces are there, but it's funny because I'd love your thoughts. It feels almost like this is the way Lucasfilm is, for better or worse, really kind of promoting, right? It's a heck of a lot more cost-effective way. And I don't say that they're planting leaks, but I think that they're not actively trying to cover things up like they may have in the past. It's created an excitement for this season that I think it's helped this season in a way. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the people were just talking about it so much. It did feel like almost a Game of Thrones level of hype where people talk about like, oh, this character is going to appear. And if we were talking about Game of Thrones, I'd be like, who's that? And
Right.
so I feel like I'm on the other side of, oh, I know who that is. And seeing other people react to it has been pretty fun. And I definitely think that they're trying to include more characters like this to like keep new fans like going down that funnel of Star Wars content. Like, oh, you like Bo-Katan? Check out the Clone Wars, check out Star Wars Rebels. And
Right. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. To me, it's great, but it can also be a little bit of a slippery slope because I always fear for people who hear from a source somewhere that this character is going to show up in a show and they get really excited for it and it doesn't happen. I would hate to be that person to just really, get their hopes up for something and be disappointed when it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So there's always that side to it as well.
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of that with Rise of Skywalker in a way. I think, although I believe my senses or my feeling is a lot of that may have been sort of self-inflicted hope, but there's such and there is such an opportunity to disappoint when you start bringing these sort of characters in, and so far they've done a very nice job with it. So what do you think the future of Star Wars is? And assuming that one day within the next 12 to 18 months we may be returning to movie theaters, do you think that Star Wars may be better served on a Disney Plus?
I love think, Star Wars on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I was going to say, so far they've, like I said, knocked it out of the park with The Mandalorian, and I think with the success of the show, especially getting into season 2, we know Kenobi is coming. We know the Cassian show is coming. I think that it would be silly for them to not explore many other options as far as live action or animated, both shows for Disney Plus.
I hope it gets to a point where I say this, although like now that we're in the midst of The Mandalorian, it's like so busy and stressful, but in a fun way. But like, I'd love it if it was just a constant stream of new, like every week is a new show. And it's like, here's 8 episodes of this, that's done. And maybe we take a week off. And then the next week we start Kenobi or whatever's in the pipeline. So I think that TV is the way that like the episode 9, you talked about self-inflicted hope, which I mean, I had hopes for things that didn't pan out. And it's like, the longer you have in between these stories and the longer they've been built up, and 42 years of the Skywalker saga like culminates in this one thing. That's a lot of pressure. When it's just like 1 week in between every Mandalorian episode. It's like, yeah, I might have some hopes, but I didn't invest that much time and energy into all that stuff. So it's like, if it doesn't happen, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just keep watching. And it's like a little easier to just engage with the actual story that's being told instead of putting all your own baggage into it.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought of it that way. I mean, we put our baggage into the build up to a series, but yeah, once it kicks off, once the fuse is lit, you don't have a lot of time to really you can't overhype your fan theories, and I think, you know, you guys were talking about Game of Thrones. I think it was a similar thing there because the full story existed. People started to have those expectations. Lucky for me, I didn't read the books, so I was just along for the ride and enjoyed it. But I think even with that, like only 5 books existed. So that story wasn't done being written. And it was like, once they got through all the book stuff, then people started to kind of turn on the series a little bit and just be like, oh, this isn't what I wanted. And because that series has been going since like 92 or something. Yeah. Again, just a lot of emotional baggage in there. Yeah. And it's, you know, and that's the thing. Like I've put my feelings out about Rise of Skywalker, and it was an unenviable, impossible task to try to take that 42 years and put it together. But I think also the fan base right now in that time, and let's face it, there's the hardcore fans. And what I found really interesting, and I'd love your response or your thoughts on this. When I walked out of Rise of Skywalker, I had my feelings. I had my disappointments and the things I loved about it. And, you know, overall to me, I walked out of it saying it was full of missed opportunities. However, and by the way, when I walked out of The Last Jedi, my feeling was that was both the best and worst Star Wars movie I'd ever seen. And then within a very short period of time, I recognized and fell in love with that movie, like so many people did, and so many people didn't as well. But what was interesting to me was when I went with what my friend Jerry Cable calls the normies, right? When we walked out of the people that I grew up with who don't have podcasts and aren't on Twitter all day. They walked out of Last Jedi like with all kinds of questions and problems and concerns, whereas they walked out of Rise of Skywalker like, yeah, that was great. That was a lot of fun. That worked for me. Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure, but I will say we had a very similar situation with some of our friends. It's hard to remember their reaction to The Last Jedi, but I think a lot of them also were confused, and they were like, oh my God, Luke Skywalker is dead? But yeah, then after The Rise of Skywalker, I remember me and Alex just being like, there's a lot to think about with this movie. And most of our friends were like, that was fun. Yeah, it's pretty good.
And go ahead.
As to why, I'm not sure. I guess it's probably all the same thing, emotional baggage. We spent 2 years talking about what was going to happen after episode 8 nonstop, and they didn't. They were just like, they came in and they were like, all right, I'm going to watch another Star Wars. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, cool. That was a Star Wars. And that's it. Right. And it's funny because I think for me, a lot of it centers around the whole Palpatine returning. And I mean, there's a lot of other detail-y kind of things that put off to the side. But to me, Palpatine coming back without enough explanation was a challenge. Whereas to the average fan, they were like, oh yeah, I know that bad guy, right? It's, it's like Thanos. It's like, oh, okay, yep, he's the bad guy. I get it. I can process this and I can move on. Whereas I'm bringing the baggage of all the
canon and non-canon, and was this and what was that, and it was it does cause a problem. But again, if we kind of bring that back to Mandalorian, how do you I personally think that they're doing a very nice job. But what's your opinion on how they're introducing characters that, the Darksaber as an example, like we probably collectively, gasped and were in just shock and excited to see that show up, whereas the average person may not care about that. So how do they tell that story in a way to make sure that they don't lose people along the way?
It's been interesting, like with the Darksaber, especially exactly what you said. People don't know what that is. To them, it's just cool looking sword, I guess. And even still, like they just started talking about it. Bo-Katan was like, does he have it? Mm-hmm. So they're kind of like teasing out a little information about this thing. And I think that they're going to trickle out enough that everyone will understand it. No problem. With all the other characters like Bo-Katan, Cobb Vanth, I'm sure with Ahsoka, I'll be interested to see how they handle Ahsoka, but like, I think they're saying enough for people to understand what they need to know without them being confused, which is always kind of, that challenging balance of like in Solo, when Maul just shows up and like all of our normie friends leaned over to look at us like, didn't he get cut in half? And I'm like, yeah, he sure did. I'll tell you what happened in a second. But
right.
Yeah, I think specifically with a character like Bo-Katan, they so effortlessly introduced her in that episode of The Mandalorian, and quickly, she just quickly introduces herself. She's got, her two sidekick people with her, and then they make it very clear in that episode, like why she's there, what she's after.
Yeah.
And she's also there to really create this conflict in Din's mind about what it is to be a Mandalorian and the whole helmet on, helmet off situation. And so in a very short amount of time, I think they did a great job just introducing her, and regular people who didn't know who she was probably thought she was really cool, and then people who knew who she was were like, oh my god, like their minds were just blown.
Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, what Molly just said is something that I really appreciate about how they're handling Cobb Vanth and Bo-Katan and probably Ahsoka, is that they're not just introducing these characters because they want to or for fan service. Like, Bo-Katan's there to immediately challenge everything Din has ever believed. Yeah. And they're making him think past his cult upbringing. And I mean, same with Cobb Vanth. They had this guy who's not a Mandalorian, but wearing the armor, and Din has to, like, over the course of the episode, be like, I think he is kind of an okay guy. Maybe he does deserve this armor. Yeah. I'm still going to take it, but...
But yeah, I mean, and it's interesting too, because I hadn't thought of it until just this moment that Din is as unaware. I always use my dad as an example because he's a science fiction horror fan, Star Wars fan, but basically movie level and now Mandalorian level. He hasn't even watched Clone Wars and things like that. And Din is kind of at his level. He knows that there's other stuff that happened, but you're right, they did a great job of just introducing her enough so that it's like it's fan service done well, right? Fan service isn't always a bad thing. In this case, it's been done in such an effective way that the three of us got it, and my dad was just like, "Wow, that's a pretty cool blue Mandalorian that's helping him out." So I think the challenge. I do agree will be Ahsoka, because there's so much baggage for her. But again, Din won't know who she is, and neither will my dad. So, so I want to go just a little bit to the two of you as sort of, I don't want to make you feel strange, but you do have a sort of level of Star Wars celebrity in that you have 600 something thousand followers on YouTube. You have a big following in Twitter, and people know who Molly and Alex are. Have you ever had experiences, and how do you respond to experiences when people kind of stop you? I mean, I'm sure at something like Celebration, people may have stopped you, and as as sort of not even pseudo celebrity. I mean, this is your job. This is what you do. Has that ever happened? And how do you respond to that? I mean, you started the channel as a personal mission to become a trivia champion, and now look at you. It's a job.
It's definitely very surreal. I think it first happened at Celebration Orlando, I want to say. And it didn't happen that much, but there were a couple of people that just came up to us and recognized us and said, "Hey, I watch your YouTube channel." And we were like, "You what?" And so that was exciting, and maybe a little bit strange, but for me, like mostly just exciting, and like getting to talk to fans face to face and learn their names, and just get to hear their stories about what it means to watch our channel. And it's very heartwarming to hear some people's stories about watching us. It really blows me away. And then during Celebration Chicago, it happened a lot more, which we were not prepared for at all. And again, just very, very much heartwarming, and it's just amazing to learn how many people we've kind of helped understand Star Wars a little bit better, or helped them love it a little bit more. It means a lot.
That's great. Alex, any particular moments stand out to you that you were you realized, okay, this thing has exploded. This thing it's a thing now. It's not just a fun little YouTube hobby.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Celebration 2019 was the big one. I mean, we were already surprised at Orlando, where we had like a meetup and like 30 people came. It was like a big group Star Wars YouTuber meetup, and a handful of people came and like hung out with us. And we were like, that was cool. That was more than I thought. And then, yeah, in 2019, it was like sometimes we just couldn't move. Like people just kept on coming up, and we were like, I'm so sorry, but like we have to go somewhere. Like we're on a panel. It's like, you walk with us. And we had a meetup there, and it was like, it took a long time, and we wanted to make sure we said hey to everybody. And one of our friends basically like turned into our handler, who was like, just I'll take all your pictures. And we were like, what is happening? So yeah, it's definitely bizarre and surreal. But I think my favorite things to see at something like that are like the younger kids will come up and they want to ask me a trivia question. Not even to try to stump me. They're just like, hey, do you know why like this or this? And I'm just like, nope. they think of I'm like, what are you, why are you thinking of this? How are you thinking of this? Yeah. It's such a good question, and I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry, but the kids think up like these wild but cool things.
They're going to make great YouTubers one day.
Yeah. My favorite thing is when people come up and tell us that like they started reading the books or the comics because of us. That's true of any age, but yeah, whenever we get someone to like take a step outside of the movies or the most mainstream stuff to be like, what else is going on here? I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've always tried to keep the channel family friendly. So it's great to hear people our age or even older say that, they'll watch the videos with their kids as like kind of like a family type thing. That's lovely to hear.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, I'm so happy that you guys have been so successful, and I've also been very lucky to be able to use you as reference materials for books that I haven't gotten to or whatnot. So I'm really, really excited and excited that you, Alex, you came back, and you guys have just been. I think one thing people need to know is that you're also very approachable and very polite and as good as you feel and seem on video. So I think that's important for people to know. So
thanks.
Let me move to the 10 question segment of the show. We end every show with 10 questions. They're evolving a little bit over the years. I've been doing the show now almost 2 years. So I'll throw them out to you, and you guys can decide to answer in any order. There's no wrong answers, although people will judge you for certain. And you can give as long or short an answer as you like. So we'll start with this. What is your favorite Star Wars movie, TV show, or book?
Alex.
I was going to let you go. I answered these last year, except they probably changed. I'll stick my answer is boring, but it's A New Hope. That was my Star Wars, the one that I fell in love with. So it's kind of my gold standard, and what I wind up inevitably comparing everything to. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, that just defined what Star Wars is for me. So I don't know if that's ever going to be topped. It's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I get Empire's the better movie. I get that, but it's just the one that I love.
That's great. Molly, what's yours?
My answer has changed a couple of times over the years, but I feel like the more I watch the movies, to be completely honest with myself, The Force Awakens is probably going to be my favorite, just because, like I said earlier, I really grew into the fandom more as an adult. So the sequel trilogy for me was what really solidified, okay, like this is something that I love enough to make it my job to love. And just all the new characters, Rey, being the main character for the sequel trilogy, being a woman, I fell in love with that story. So.
That's great. It was, with all the talk lately of John Boyega having conversations with Kathleen Kennedy, and I almost said Kathleen Turner. That would be strange. Maybe he is. I don't know, but probably. And look, I know Lego Star Wars is not canon, and it's just pure fun. But how great was it to see Finn and Rey training together in Lego
so
form?
Great.
I choose to accept that as like the events that unfold and the way they unfolded in the holiday special. Probably not accurate, but Rey training Finn, I'm like, yes, I buy that for sure.
And give me more of it, right? I mean,
yes,
I think
exactly.
It was so
until they say otherwise. That is our headcanon.
That's great. Well, this next question you didn't answer, Alex, because it's worked its way in, because it used to be what's your least favorite, but you know what? I feel like that's way too negative. So if you could get the backstory on any side character in Star Wars, who would you want to know more about? I probably know your answer, but
well, I mean, yeah, I feel like I know enough about Biggs just from Legends. Like I of course I love Biggs, right. And I would love any story involving him. But he did get a fair amount of time to shine in Legends. He got his own comic series. He got a lot. So I'm trying to think of. Max Rebo is usually my go-to second there, but even he has had some decent appearances in comics and stuff, and he was in the holiday special.
Yes, he was. Yes, yeah. All right, we'll go with Max. That's not a bad answer.
I'll go Max.
All right, that's good. Molly, what about you?
The first one that popped into my head, and I know I've talked a little bit about this with you, Alex. General Grievous is one that I feel like would be really cool to see his transformation into the General Grievous that we know and love from the Clone Wars. So basically, all of his cybernetic enhancements and, growing up in kind of that warrior society. I always thought that he was such a cool character that I would love to know more about. How he got to that point.
I like that one. That's a really good one. Cool. Well, I think I know the answer to this one, but I'll ask it. Would you consider yourselves a rebel or an Imperial?
I'm rebel for sure.
Rebel, unless I can be a Sith.
Oh, that's right. And by the way, how did you nail Dark Rey before she even existed? I don't
know.
I mean, makeup and everything. It was just it's not right. Something's amiss there. That was pretty wild. That was great.
They still haven't credited me for that, but I'm waiting.
Where's the just the thank you and the end credits? I think I don't think that's asking too much. Yeah, special thanks. So, what is your favorite Star Wars sound effect?
Ooh. I'm gonna say the sound of an X-wing blaster. I remember, I think it was in the first trailer for The Force Awakens, and there's a shot of like the X-wing following a TIE fighter down towards Takodana, and just seeing that and hearing that sound immediately got me pumped up, because I obviously love the pilots and stuff. So just knowing we were going to get some dog fighting and it was going to look that cool. I love that sound effect.
I'm going to go predictable and say lightsaber. Just because the one that comes to mind first is that the Darth Vader scene in Rogue One, where it's the first thing we see and hear. Yeah. And you're just like, oh, it's over for everyone in that hallway.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was just on our live news show that we do. We just had John Knowles, the video game producer. He just he joined us for an hour, and we talked about. He said there was almost a Darth Vader as a sort of like a killing machine Darth Vader video game that they pitched to George, and George said that's not Darth Vader. And then but to see that, and you're right. I mean, the sound of the lightsaber. And one thing that I hadn't noticed until I'd been running the show, and a couple people have referenced it, the difference in sounds for different lightsabers. And there's the obvious Kylo Ren one, but even in like Empire, the saber sounds between Luke and Vader were slightly different. So yeah, it's an interesting call. I like it. Okay, who is your favorite droid?
I think BD1 now.
Oh, yeah, from Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, from Fallen Order. I really loved him.
Yeah.
I'll say Chopper, because he's so sassy.
Right. We always knew that R2 was a little sassy, but like you can almost tell exactly what Chopper's saying every single time.
Yeah. He's got those little arms.
Okay, so if you could own any spaceship or vehicle from the Star Wars universe, what would it be?
I'm pretty sure we know Alex's.
Yeah, still an X-wing. Feels boring, but yeah.
I feel like just like a normal speeder bike would be really cool. Just something, size-wise, we could maybe park in our garage. Take it out for a spin whenever we're bored.
And speaking of sound effects, when the sound effect of the speeder bike came in The Mandalorian, that was so perfect. So well
done. The every time we've watched it so far, the blaster sound effect for the speeder bike as well. Yeah. Just like, I don't know, gets me pumped up.
It takes me right back to Endor.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. That hollow, echoey sort of sound. And it's so great. So cool. All right. This is a new question, Alex, that you didn't have last time either. It is, what is your favorite? And I can see them all around you guys. You can see them behind me. What's your favorite Star Wars toy or collectible that you own?
I'm pretty fond of I was big into Fallen Order last year, and so I have the Cal Kestis replica.
That's
both
nice.
Of ours are lightsabers.
Focus.
Get mine. So
it's trying so hard to focus.
might be too close, Alex. Bring it back just a little bit.
There we go.
Oh, there it is. Nice. It's got like I haven't seen one of those in real life. It's got the wires hanging out of the bottom and everything. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's cool. I like that one.
Mine is also a lightsaber. However, this is not very well kitted out at all. I just put these little rubber pieces on the bottom, but this is an actual Graflex flash bulb handle that I got from an old job that I worked at that would buy and sell used camera equipment. And I found this in a box of junk that they were going to, sell on eBay. And I immediately recognized it. And I was like, can I have this? And my manager was like, I mean, it doesn't work, but sure. Like, he didn't know what it was. And so, yeah, I was like, okay, cool. But yeah.
So, how did you research the other parts that are on it? Did you pull them from, where did you get them from? That's
honestly, they make an actual kit of the rubber pieces, and there's another little piece here that has the little like circles on it. But honestly, I think I just cut up some black rubber from an old like foam mat piece that we had. I was like, just for display's sake, from far away, that'll do.
Yeah, it looks great. Cool.
Yeah, one day I want to actually get the full kit and fix it up.
That's pretty cool. That's very cool. Okay, if you could be any character in Star Wars, who would it be, and why?
Maybe something like Dr. Aphra.
Yeah. So a lot of people have started adding to that. Like when I first started asking this question a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it was either Han, Luke, or Leia. Like it was pretty easy, pretty simple. And it's funny because Star Wars has changed, but more interestingly, the people who think about that, like, because now they weigh into things like, well, did they live? Did they have a miserable life? Did they have a good life? So you said Dr. Aphra?
Dr. Aphra or Cal Kestis, like someone that gets to go explore crazy tombs and stuff. I love that stuff. So
it's the Indiana Jones family.
Yeah.
I'd have to go Rey.
Yeah.
She, out of anyone that I can think of that I would want to actually be, I think I'd go her. And also, she's got a lot of story left to live and to hopefully tell. So, yeah, hopefully we get more of her story.
I hope this sounds really sort of, I hope this doesn't come around negative, but I hope her advisors are telling her not to wait too long. I mean, Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford were like kind of, they tried to distance themselves a little bit. And when they came back, they realized what they had missed. And I hope she recognizes that this is it's a character that people love for a reason, and maybe she'll be able to gain from the wisdom from some of her co-stars from that regard. Because I would love to see her before she's 60 years old coming back as Rey. All right, what's your favorite trilogy? The original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, or the sequel trilogy? If you had to sit down and watch 3 Star Wars films.
I mean, the originals.
Yeah.
I will agree. Original trilogy as a trilogy. Watching all 3 in a row, I think I would prefer. Even though I love the sequel trilogy so much, there's a lot of ups and downs. We mentioned it earlier. The Rise of Skywalker had some issues for both of us, but. It's funny, like my favorite movie is from the sequel trilogy, but I think my favorite trilogy is still original. Yeah.
And it's funny that you said Force Awakens, because that one, to me, it's like people gave it a hard time for being quote unquote a reboot of A New Hope, but I think that's why it works, because it put you right back where you needed to be to get back to Star Wars. It was really kind of the perfect way. A lot of people say, I actually, in a way, I look at it as almost a soft reboot. If you think about like the way JJ did that with Star Trek, it was Star Wars A New Hope without just having Rey be called Luke, right? She was the story was there, but it was different enough to keep you coming back, but it was similar enough to be so familiar and so comfortable, but it uses also modern movie making sensibilities. Like the Falcon chase on Jakku is still one of the most exciting Star Wars chases of all of them, as far as for my money. So
yeah, and it's in my opinion, it's got some of the best music too. Some of the really good themes.
Yes, I would have loved love. I think one of my biggest disappointments is not having gotten a full Kylo Ren suite, because I think his motif is so good and so recognizable, and I'm pretty sure I heard it in The Mandalorian the other day. Did you when they show the tubes of what we may assume to be Snoke? When I watched it again, I thought I heard a little violin playing those couple notes. So next time you watch it, listen for it.
I'll listen out.
Yeah, but I would love to have gotten the full Kylo suite, the full song, because I think it was great. But Rey's theme may be the best piece of music in all of Star Wars, which is saying a lot.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Okay, so the last question is, what is your favorite Star Wars quote?
I don't know why. The one that always pops into my head when people ask me this is, who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him? I always loved that one.
That's a great one.
I think even as a kid, I was like, that's a good point, Obi-Wan.
He's a wise old man.
Yeah. I don't know the full quote by heart, but I think Yoda's "luminous beings are we" line, his whole spiel about like what the Force is, and that it's everyone is basically the Force. I think that might be my favorite quote of all of Star Wars.
Guys, thank you so much for spending some time with me. I know you got a lot going on. You're working through Schmoedown championships and things, and it's the holidays. And I also want to just thank you guys again for being a part of the toy drive that we have going on. And information about that will, of course, be in the show notes. But again, you guys are a gift to the Star Wars community, and I really appreciate you taking some time to talk.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Great. Well, thanks, guys. Talk to you again.
Bye, Pete.